What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Matt Ryan Show. Obviously, I'm your host, Ryan Goodson, alongside Mr. Matthew Hargrove. It's been a minute, Mr. Hargrove. How have you been? With the Nashville Predators hat on, I see. Switching up what's
Yeah,
going on in the NHL.
yeah, you can always count on me to have two different teams.
Yeah.
I feel like how many podcasts have we done? We've done about eight or so. I feel like
This is
seven of
episode
them I've
12, but
worn
yeah.
like one hat of it's either an Oakland A's hat or
Yeah.
some kind of hat, and then yeah, so it doesn't make sense. But this is definitely the look today.
Arkansas
Love my
baseball.
Arkansas baseball shirt.
Yeah.
Love me some Andrew Benintendi. So not, I mean, I'm sticking with him. Not now. He's really going through it. Just played on one of the greatest teams in Major League history. And then how can you hate Nashville Predators hockey growing up in Nashville? So, but been watching a ton of ball. Uh, it's honestly been a big week for you. So, round of
Huge.
applause for you taking the time to join us tonight.
Yeah.
It's a big night for the Eagles playing the
Mm.
Commanders, and
Mm.
then Clay. Very emotional night. You had Clay back in Golden State, and then you had your Kentucky Wildcats going up against Duke.
Yeah.
That had to been one of the biggest sports
I'm
nights for
tearing up.
you, and I
I'm
mean
tearing up.
of your life, really.
Yeah, Tuesday was a tremendous night. Hopefully Thursday can really cap off the week with a clean sweep.
Well,
Um,
I would say this. It honestly, if the Eagles win tonight, it would be a perfect week because even though you're excited about Clay coming back, at the end of the day, the Warriors are your team. So
Absolutely.
he wasn't able to get his revenge. Warriors win.
Perfect.
Kentucky beats Duke. And what I didn't realize is the Eagles. I was watching SVP last night, and they were talking about all the big matchups this week. And he said that the Eagles have had the weakest schedule in the first half up to this point. I don't know, I don't know what he goes by, but I trust SVP. I really do. So
He's
so
not
this
he's
is
wrong.
about to be this is about to be a big test for them tonight because I'm just afraid. I like Philadelphia even if they lose this game. I'm pretty sure it's in DC, right?
I actually don't know. We'll check on that.
I think it is in DC, but if they lose, then everybody's going to come down on Nick Sirianni and the
They
Eagle.
did in Philly tonight. In Philly at
Oh,
home
in
game.
Philly, of Philly. Okay, well
Home,
that
home game
puts more
Thursday night.
pressure.
Al Michaels on the call, who probably won't want to be there by the third quarter, and we'll get a great Thursday night prime. Here's my thing.
Herb Street will be
He'll
there.
carry. He'll carry.
It'll be great.
Because I did. You're right about that. SVP is correct, and we'll do a little bit of football here because we got a lot of NBA and college basketball to talk about. But Eagles do have a pretty awful schedule. They almost lost to Jacksonville, which I did predict 2 weeks ago. Luckily, I was wrong, but they haven't convincingly beat someone to where you're like, oh, that's a really good football team. They're squeaking by, and eventually a team like Washington, who is really good at football, might come in and
Well,
take
to be
them.
honest with you, they play in the perfect conference because nobody in that conference, when you take it like if the playoffs started today, there's not a lot of teams that you can definitively say that you trust other than the Detroit Lions. So
Yeah.
Falcons, Cardinals, like Kirk Cousins is so iffy. You don't know what you get out of Kyler Murray. I would say the same for Jordan Love. Like
Yeah.
Jordan Love's got a big arm, but I don't necessarily say I trust him. And his win last year was against the Cowboys, and obviously history has shown like I don't know how much pride you can take out of beating the Dallas Cowboys in the playoffs as of late.
Well,
So
yeah, you just can't put much stock into it, but that's neither here nor there.
yeah,
This is a
yeah.
big game, fighting for first place in the division. It'd be a fun one to watch. However, we will dive into what we witnessed on Tuesday night real quick. Kentucky played Duke. Most people watched it probably because of number one overall projected pick in the 2025 NBA draft. Cooper Flag obviously was playing, had a great game. He was consistent, and with freshmen like that are 17 playing in a big game like this, 9 o'clock tip off, which I think is ridiculous. We can really get into that. in a
I love
minute.
it.
But 9 o'clock. I know you're a big. You used to be a Pac-12 guy. You know.
Well, I just am naturally a night owl. Like I
Yeah,
just do not. I just don't sleep at night.
I am too. But when you have to get up at 6 a.m., you'd like the game to be over before one
Well, see,
o'clock.
that's the thing is like my job.
Yeah.
I work nights, pretty not nights, but pretty much like my shifts don't start till 3 or 4 o'clock. So I have the yeah. You make a great point. I don't have to sleep in, and usually I can sleep in, and I usually do. So when I see those 9 o'clock, 10 o'clock at nights, I start jumping for joy. But yeah, you make a great point when
Yeah, I
having to get up
respect
at
that.
6 a.m.
But just quick reactions of the game. You obviously got to watch it with a group of mixed fans between the Duke and Kentucky friends that we've got. I was in a Kentucky house with a few of my buddies. I actually got to see Jay and Luke. Luke came over. Luke Atkins.
Oh,
Shout
Luke
out.
Atkins.
Shout out.
Oh my
Um,
gosh. I
saw
cannot
him.
wait. I know nobody knows who we're talking about, but
That's
Luke
okay.
Atkins, for intramural basketball when we were in college, he was the best center in the league.
Yeah.
Um,
Still chiseled
Powerful.
out.
Oh
Still
yeah.
chiseled out. You would
Yeah,
have thought
six
maybe.
five. Yeah, I felt like Jamal Murray when I go on the pick and roll going up with Jokic, and he can shoot the three, and
Yeah.
like, yeah, cannot wait to see him. Our buddy Jay's having a wedding, so I get to see him. But
Yeah.
anyways, thoughts from the game. You are right. I watched it with a Duke fan. I also really two because our buddy Claim was there, and he had a bet on Duke. So pretty much two Duke fans
Yeah.
and two Kentucky fans. I don't know if this makes me a bad friend or not, but I was just rooting for a great game. So, and I wanted overtime, but I felt like I was kind of egging it on a little bit because Kentucky would have a huge basket. Kentucky fans would go wild, and I would get up with them, start high fiving them and cheering them. Next possession, Duke would hit a three or something, and I'd get up and start celebrating. So I was kind of rooting for both sides, and we did see a great game. Um, I guess I'll start with Duke because yeah, that was they do have the projected number one pick, Cooper Flag. He is going to be an absolute stud this year. Now, what does worry me about Duke, which I think this loss was good for them, actually, and Jay Williams, all the respect in the world for Jay Williams. He knows 100% more ball than me. But at the end of the game, Jay Williams was talking about down the stretch for Duke, and he said, I would have liked to see the ball get into the hands of Tyrese Proctor. Yes, in that moment, maybe Tyrese Proctor would be a better situation, but what's going to happen in March? Absolutely not. At the end of the day, when March comes around, you're going to want Cooper Flag to take the last shot. He's the most talented player. He can be the most talented player. So, all these coaches, what do they always say? Bill Self, when they beat Michigan State, they always ask him early on in the season, what did this win mean for you? Didn't mean anything. It's great. We got a lot of things to work on. We got to get ready for March. Got to get ready for March. Well, that's exactly that. This loss was perfect for Cooper Flag. You have to get him ready for March. You have to allow him to go through these failures. They're gonna get there, 100%. So they can afford to take these chances with Cooper Flag being the guy going one on one down the stretch. They tried it twice. I thought he was over dribbling the first time when he backed down, I think Alex Carr, he got him to the elbow. And you know what really impresses me and what I really look for with these top picks? Can they make NBA shots and get their own basket? Cooper Flag did that multiple times. He gave it out on the block. He had that nasty spin move baseline. He had the pull up mid range. Now, the three ball could be a little bit better. I'm not worried about him missing open threes. They're going to fall eventually, especially when he gets to the NBA and he's taking 1,000 shots a day. And also, too, he's 17 years old. So he's going to get stronger. Yeah, really impressive. I just thought he may have tried to do too much, which is natural. But yeah, the thing that scares me about Duke, which is always a problem, is freshmen. You had Knipple as well, who's supposed to be a lottery pick. He was 5 for 20. He was a ghost the last 10 minutes of the game. I don't even think they called out his name. I don't even remember him taking a big shot.
Well, Jay Billups
Um,
did because Jay loves to suck any Duke player's cock as much as he can on a broadcast. So Alex Knipple and Cooper Flag's name came out of his mouth more than the actual name of University of Kentucky, I believe. And again, Love Dan Shulman. Dan Shulman is one of my underrated, like,
Dude,
play by
no,
play
we
guys.
actually will not have any blasphemous talk about Dan Schulman on here
I
because he
love Jay.
is.
I love Dan Shulman.
I think, to be honest with you, I think Dan Schulman and Jay Billis together is one of the top broadcasting crews.
One of
Sorry,
them.
was
Jim Nance and Bill
yeah.
Raftery.
I'm not saying the top, but
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
if we were to. If we were to sit down one day and have a top five crews, I definitely think Dan Schulman and Billis would be on there.
I'd put him over Gus Johnson and whoever he's calling the game
And
with.
Klatt and Joe Klatt.
Well, that's football, so give me
Oh, you're talking
basketball. Gus
about
Johnson.
basketball. You're talking about
Yeah,
basketball.
we could
Well,
really go in
Gus
there.
doesn't really do a ton of basketball anymore.
Sometimes he does Big East. I think he's still in the Big East.
Yeah,
Or
but they don't consistently put them together with
no,
names going blank. Onions. Um,
that's Bill
you know,
Raftery.
yeah. So, he used to be with him all the time. Uh, but
That's
but
the
anyways, going back to the game.
yeah.
Yeah, because Jay, we were talking about it off screen as well. At halftime, he was talking about how this might be the best depth team Duke has ever had since he played. I think that was '91. I think is when he said.
Joe
May have been a
Williams.
little later or
Okay.
sometime in the '90s. But uh, and they end up going to lose. So uh, Duke is going to be good. They have to get the freshmen a little bit better, comfortable in those big game situations. It's great. They're going to play in more and more. But the next time that it comes down to the wire, I hope to God they go back to Cooper Flag. He just has to fail and fail and fail because eventually they will. He is too talented. They will turn into game winners. They really will. He almost ended up having a game winner because he got the and one at the elbow, the little push shot when I don't know how that bucket went in, but he is a star. I cannot wait to watch him play. I really cannot. He's going to be great. Um, Go ahead, Ryan. Sorry.
No, I like him a lot. And I kind of deep dive into a lot of these high school prospects that then become one and dones or overseas and go to the league. And obviously everybody knows about Cooper Flag. I think he's really good. A lot of people love to throw the term generational talent out like it's
No,
candy.
no.
He's not that. And let's be clear, nobody is that unless you're 7'3" who can do what Victor Wembanyama can do, who just dropped 50 points, by the way, 2 nights ago. Or last night.
No, yeah, generational talent is
It's just,
you're saying he's going to become like a LeBron James. That's what you're
generational
saying.
talent is reserved for shit you have never seen before in your life, or I haven't seen this since, and it better be 20 years from now when you're talking about somebody like LeBron James. Like,
Now,
oh, I
I'll
haven't
give him
seen.
this. I'll give him this. I don't know how many guys at 17 would be able to do what he's doing.
I'm not
I think
discrediting him. I'm just it's everybody around him that is calling him that pisses me off because it's unfair to him because now you give these kids like these expectations of
oh
well
my
you're a
gosh.
generational talent and then it becomes like oh well if you're not LeBron James then you're no good and it's like that's not
Especially at a program like Duke,
yeah
where it's national championship or bust. And you know what puts so much pressure on him is he's going to be there for 1 year.
well of
So
course
you have 1 year to solidify yourself as one of the greatest players in Duke history, and that's really tough. Which that's for a lot of guys that go to Duke. Zion was the same way. So and RJ,
yeah I mean Paulo I mean there's a lot
yeah.
of guys you can go down the list I thought it was a great game. I thought from a Kentucky fan standpoint, it was the best part. The best part was to be on the side of we're going in the right direction, rather than well, we've got young guys, we've got inexperience, and by March we'll be good. But right now it's going to take some growing pains. The growing pains were becoming too we were getting too used to seeing the growing pains the last 5 or 6 years without the results at the end that were so coveted in 2012 and 2015. But Not that saying that this is going to be a championship team, because the odds of that happening with this squad are pretty slim. There's a lot of flaws with this team, being Kentucky. I don't think they beat one person off the dribble last night. And Duke is good defensively, but they just don't have a guy that can facilitate, that really gets in the paint, that can really draw defenders like that. Offensively, unless they're hitting shots, I mean, think about this: Kentucky's best scorer, or was supposed to be coming into the year, scored 2 points. Or I'm sorry, 1 point. It was Jackson Robinson the entire night. So if you win when your best player, quote unquote, is scoring 1 point, then you're doing something right. But my favorite part was Coach Pope. He really took into account which lineup was working at the time. There was a few runs that Duke would go on right after a timeout. So Kentucky would go on a run, Duke would call a timeout. It was like a five or 6 point run. Duke calls a timeout, stops it, and then Duke goes on a little bit of run. Uh, Kentucky really never got a big run like going like that, and for some reason, it felt like Duke had 1,000 timeouts. But the point is, like, Coach Pope would make the adjustments. He would put the guys in that felt like going to give him the best energy on the team, and the end of the game lineup wasn't set in stone before the game started. That's something I want to see. Which players are playing the best game, and that's going to be your last five. I don't care I don't care if Jackson Robinson is getting paid $1 million to go play basketball at the University of Kentucky. If you're scoring 1 point in 39 minutes, you're not going to be out there for the last minute of that game. That's just my thoughts, but I thought it was really well coached. It's kind of nice to have the coaching advantage back at Kentucky for the last few years, but
Yeah, just watching that game, I definitely agree with you. Again, it's so early on in the season, but it definitely did not feel like. I kept asking myself when it was tight, last 6 minutes of the game. I kept asking myself, who is gonna take over?
who's
Like
getting, yeah.
who wants the ball and is just gonna, like you said, just go and score. They never, even though they got the win, they never really had that guy. I mean, Andrew Carr, a little bit. They
Yeah.
got from him. He had the big and one down in the block.
I think he had the
Late.
best game he's had so far, which is surprising because I thought defensively he would be burnt toast against Coop early, which he kind of
Yeah, he
was.
held his own. He did help hold his own.
But it was just a good overall win, and it's gonna be an exciting college basketball season. I mean, they've Kentucky's got Gonzaga coming up pretty soon, who they played a tremendous first game against a top 10 team, and then they came out against Arizona State and were close, and had that place rocking in Spokane, Washington. So that'll be a fun game. It's back to college basketball where there's just chaos everywhere. There's no team that you're like, oh, they're definitely going to win the national championship. Even UConn doesn't seem quite as dominant yet, but I'm sure they will get to that point. So
Yeah, I don't think they've been playing just a bunch of just
yeah.
schools that they should blow out, and they have been blowing them out. Also too with Kentucky, I think it's the bench looked really good.
Hmm.
I thought your guys' bench. I think you have some depth pieces. Kurt Krista, watching all those Pac-12 games that um, near and dear to my heart, staying up late watching
Hmm.
Arizona. He is a starting point guard for a really good college team. The Arizona teams that he was on, they should have made runs, but for some reason Arizona gets to the tournament and it's like they're allergic to the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
It's kind of annoying because I've loved no, no,
Yeah,
and
you're
I've
right.
loved some of those Arizona teams. I picked them. They've ruined my brackets. The Benedict Mathurin team.
Yeah.
I thought that team was it. That team was scary. But Kirk Krista could be your guys' version of Remy Martin. I really do think Remy Martin for Kansas when they won the national championship. He was maybe not as good as Remy Martin, but somebody who comes off the bench. He's a major spark. And
Hmm.
Remy Martin could start for any team in the country, and they could still make a run in the tournament. That's how good Remy Martin was. but I do think Kerr Krissa, and man, I tell you what, he is your Grayson Allen. He will turn into that guy if when you guys get into conference play, SEC teams there you're just going to hate him. You love him if he's on your team, you hate him. I mean, rooting for Oregon, he talks trash. He's got the stupid little mustache. He's
Yeah.
not big either. And I mean, right from the jump, he was getting into the face and kind of getting tangled up with Sion James, I believe it was, for Duke. And you could tell he was kind of getting under James's skin when James came off the bench for Duke. But Kirk Krista, he is your just classic, annoying little white guy off the bench that he's gonna drop a couple threes, and if you're the opposing team, you're going to be like, how is this dude beating us? And he hit that big three. It was a 4-point game, and then he made it, I want to say it was 65-64, made
Yeah.
it back to a 1-point game. But, you have Brea as well. Am I pronouncing that right?
Yep.
Kobe Brea was hitting shots, and to be honest with you, and I loved this out of Mark Pope. Armani Williams, the center, he did not look good, and he has got to figure out offensively. And I know this from experience. He has got to figure out to use that right hand. He
Yeah.
has to. When
Yeah.
he put, I mean, it was easy. You could call it out every time he got on the block, and I guess we do have a visual, so I'll catch the ball on the block. He did not want to spin with his shoulder. And I was like, he's just going to spin. He's going to go this way. And sure enough, he did. And I felt like Duke kind of figured that out. But they love to, it was a little Loyola Chicago offense with that. Do you remember that big center our senior year
Yeah.
of college? That's kind of what it reminded me of. They had Amari Williams at the top of the key, and then they would spin screens on the
That's kind of
wings.
how the offense has been the first two games. It's been Amari Williams is a really good passer for a big man. Obviously, it's a little different when you're playing Duke and everybody's getting pressed. And what Duke was doing was they were switching every pin down, and then they were staying on the ball screens, which I thought was a really good adjustment because Kentucky didn't know what to do. Because most of the time, if you're going to stick, you're going to stick with everything, and if you're going to switch, you're going to switch everything. And they were able to kind of switch that up and throw the rhythm off of everything Kentucky was trying to do. They love that little 3-man action where there's a screen in the corner, and then that guy has the option to either cut or come and do a DHO dribble handoff with Amari, and Amari can make the decision whether he's going to keep it, dribble handoff, or hit the cut man on the bounce pass slip. It's a good offensive set if you've got the right players. Sometimes they do it. They sometimes run it when Brandon Garrison's in there. It doesn't make sense, but we can go
Yeah,
all day
yeah.
about this
I,
game.
I will say though, Brandon Garrison, I really liked him though.
Yeah,
I thought he
he played well.
played, as far as energy off the bench as a backup center. I think you guys definitely have some depth pieces, and if you can, if Jackson Robinson can turn into that dude,
Figure it
um,
out. Figure it out.
and also too, you have a guard who um, doesn't turn over the ball a lot. It seems like Lamont Butler. Um,
Lamont and Ortega Owe are the two guys that if those two are they're starting those two defensively. If you're a guard, you hate playing Kentucky because you've got those two, and then you've got Kerr coming off the bench. So automatic, you're never going to get a break if you're a
no.
starting point guard. So they'll be fun to watch for sure.
Yeah,
It,
they definitely seem like, 19th in the nation. I don't know about that. They're probably a better team than that going into this year. So still a lot of ball left, but yeah, I liked both teams. I really did.
yeah, it'll be a good college basketball season is officially underway now. Um, well, unfortunately, so is the NBA Cup, which I know you enjoy thoroughly when those banners get hung up.
Yeah, it's
However,
great.
I will say, I will say, the NBA Cup produces some of the best regular season basketball that I've seen the last 2 years, and I know you hate that, but the games, for some reason, they actually take serious. The first night was on Tuesday or Monday night. It was a completely different that night from the other back to back. I can't remember if it was Sunday or Monday, but the night before it's a regular season game. It's just like, everybody's moseying out there. Nobody really gives a shit. And then the NBA Cup starts, and everybody just, the games mean more. The games are always better. And that's been 2 nights now where you just have really good NBA basketball games because of that. I don't know if it's because of that or, if people actually take pride in the cup or what's going on, but it seems to be better product for the regular season, which was the whole idea of it anyway.
Yeah, you already know my thoughts. I just hate it. I don't know why. I know why I hate it. I know why I hate it so much is because um they just make such a big deal. They make it such a big deal out of nothing. But when you think about it, it's the same thing as college. You have the Maui tournament. You have the. I see it a little bit different in college because for the college kids, it's a cool opportunity to go overseas and play in some fun games. Like I get that, but for the NBA, it's like
Well, the NBA's, I'd compare it to what people in soccer do when you have the Champions League while you're still playing in the normal Premier League. So like that's kind of what it feels like they're trying to emulate, which is very tough because the Champions League is one of the most coveted cups you can get. NBA doesn't have that. I think the Lakers winning it last year made it to where every year from now on everybody will take it serious. If the Charlotte Hornets had won the NBA Cup last year, there would be nobody would give a shit about it because they'd be like, well, it doesn't matter because it's the Hornets. They didn't make the playoffs, but they won the NBA Cup. So there's no correlation to that being the case. The Lakers winning it made it a big deal, and it sucked at the time because it shouldn't have been. But what it does is it creates it to where the next few years people will actually care about it because it's kind of like bragging rights for the regular season. For
can I be completely honest with you? If my team, the Denver Nuggets, makes the NBA Cup, I will not watch it.
okay, now you're being
I
dramatic.
won't. I won't. And you know why? Because the game doesn't even count towards your regular season.
That I don't get. That I don't. I'll agree with you on that. I don't get
Can you
why.
imagine me watching a game that does not matter? Does not matter. The only thing that it matters for is the players. They do. I'm pretty sure they get an incentives for money. I'm pretty sure.
Yeah,
Can you imagine watching the NBA Cup game that doesn't matter and your star player goes down?
I do understand that it should count towards the stats. I don't understand why it doesn't count towards stats. I don't get. I guess because they don't know who's going to play, so they can't account for an extra game for two extra people, for two extra teams
That
without
yeah, I guess yeah,
making it up. They've got to figure out a way to do that because it can't be a game where because that will happen at some point in the next 5 years if they don't fix it. Somebody will go down in the game like that, and you'll go, "Well, you just played for a game that doesn't matter." People will eventually start sitting out of the game because
yeah,
it doesn't matter unless it becomes where if you win the NBA Cup, whichever conference wins it is the one who, you know, gets to host, gets automatic home court advantage in the play in the
yeah.
final. Like
No,
unless you make it like that, then
I think I hate the NBA Cup, and it's something we've already I definitely addressed already on here. I hate the NBA Cup because it's the NBA, in my opinion, and here's the difference: they're business people. They're only thinking money, and they are 100% making more money off of doing this kind of stuff. I would assume, or else what would be the point in doing it? But I look at it as a fan, and I want the best product, and the best product is in my opinion they have way too many teams in the playoffs. That is a huge issue. If you get off to a slow start, look at the Milwaukee Bucks. The Milwaukee Bucks started, what was it, 2-8? If
mhm.
you only had 6 teams like it was in the 90s making the playoffs, you could legit be like, okay, Milwaukee, like, you guys got to get your stuff going. No one bats an eye because everybody knows, well, that long season, Giannis will get it going. So this NBA Cup, the way I view it is this is not the way to improve the regular season. We're already letting in half the league from each conference into the playoffs. So now you're rewarding I just that's what I think.
Here's the
That's
thing. I disagree with you because I don't think those two correlate. I think you can still have the NBA Cup and still shorten the playoffs, but they'll never do that because of money, and we know that. We've
Yeah,
had
yeah,
long conversations about it. But the thing is, for me, the regular season became monotonous, and it really started when the Warriors became the Warriors, and it was, well, let's just get to the playoffs because we know the Warriors are going to be there. We know they're going to be the one seed. Let's just see who they play, how they play them when the playoffs happens. Unless you're winning 72 games in the regular season, that's the only time anybody bats an eye at the regular season. This actually creates a better product for the NBA regular season. I I want you to go watch an NBA Cup regular season game. The Pistons and the Heat played, which nobody would really give a shit about, except for it was a cup game and it was actually a really great game to watch. Not saying that it wouldn't have been without the cup, but there's been more instances in the last year and 2 days of games that shouldn't matter that are actually entertaining games to watch, and it you can tell the difference of the intensity in the games that they play than a regular season game. So I think it's a great product. They can obviously make some tweaks to it as far as games not counting towards stats, playing meaningless games, but you know, we got to see
yeah.
one. I mean, Dallas goes to Golden State. Obviously, that would have been a regular season game that it would have been important no matter what because Clay was coming back. But it being a cup game and it mattering towards a goal, it made it feel like it was much more. And we'll get into it because Clay did make his return, and they had a beautiful tribute. I wish I had my Clay jersey behind me because I was supposed to put that up. It was awesome to see. Uh, Rumor was there's been a lot of stuff that comes out after the game, so I'm glad we waited till Thursday to record instead of doing it on Tuesday. Rumor was that Steph was supposed to speak before the game started, and kind of give a speech to the crowd and show appreciation for Clay. I would assume didn't happen. They scratched that. They had the tribute video, which was awesome. Everybody gets emotional. He plays. He has the first shot of the game, gets fouled, scores the first bucket. The rest of the game became, the first quarter was, oh, Steph and Clay are going back and forth. Steph was guarding Clay the first few possessions, stripped him. Clay hit a shimmy. Steph finally got going a little bit. Fourth quarter happens. Draymond Green was tremendous during this entire game. Steph goes on a little flurry at the end. I think it was 8-0 or 10, not 0, but 10-point run by himself for the Warriors. When he hits the big three over Derek Lively to put them up by 4, I think, with like 28 seconds left. What I saw in live time was you miss it here, or don't, something like that, where he's screaming to the camera. He goes, "Don't you miss it here?" Or if you miss it here, and he was screaming it and screaming it. Somebody has come out and said what he actually has said, and they've got the broadcast of it. I'm trying to remember what it is now. I just had it, but you could tell that it meant a lot that Clay had left and that he's back in the Golden State, and that it's still it's still a city of Steph Curry. But it was just really emotional, and it was a great watch. But it was also part of the NBA Cup, and there's been a lot of games that have been part of the NBA Cup that mean more for players, whether you like it or not.
No,
It
I'll say that. I'll go back on what I said, and I'll agree with you. I'll say that it's made those particular regular season games entertaining. It's just it goes on for a month, and then we're right back to where we are. I guess is what I get frustrated with. Is it's not a oh, awesome, we get a month of these guys playing hard. Maybe because some of the teams they lose their first two games and they're probably like, okay, well, I mean that's that.
Yeah.
So yeah, I just NBA regular season has never been my favorite. I mean, it's never been a lot of people's favorites. There's been complaints about just sitting out, the injuries and all that kind of stuff. So that's just my one gripe with it. I
turns
do
out
want to.
turns out he's what he his actual words were, because I thought he said you miss it here or do
Yeah.
you miss it here. Um, I just looked it up. What he said was you better stay here. He said it 3 times. He said, "You better stay here." This is after he hit a big three. Emotions are high.
Yes, yeah.
Um, but clearly he didn't want Clay to leave. If you remember, the entire reason Clay left was because the fans had become critical of him as far as his shooting performances and his inconsistencies and his defensive, uh, you know, declines, I guess you could say, because he was once a great defender and is no longer um, that same defender. He's still good, but he's not anything what he was. So I think that got to the point where Clay was getting in his own head, slash, tired of hearing that narrative. Just needed to change the scenery, which sucks because if I think most Warriors fans would say if they had it their way, those two would retire together with Draymond, no matter what the outcome of the next 3 years would be. Um, Now, with that being said, the Warriors look really good right now. They have beaten OKC. They have beaten Dallas. They're what I believe 9-2 right now. Um, they look like a really good basketball team, really fun. The difference between the last few years and this year is they're back. They're back to their ways in 2022 of just being menaces on defense. Draymond Green, Gary Payton, DeAnthony Melton, Kyle Anderson coming off the bench. I mean, just random people that, not random, but guys you may know, but you're like, you wouldn't play a big role in most teams. Buddy Hield's coming off the bench, lighting it up. But defensively, they are all locked in and really
I
causing
uh
problems on
I love
offense.
it. I love it. Like Golden State playing well. Steph, awesome. 36 years old. Draymond, man, I think I feel like every year, I think to myself, okay, this is the year where we're going to see some decline, some decline. But he's the same player. I mean, he'll have 8 points, 8 assists, 8 rebounds, great defense,
Yeah.
and he's awesome. The Clay thing, I'm looking at the Golden State season, and I'm like, the way that Clay's playing because he hasn't been bad for
Mm-mm.
Dallas. Starting games, he's had some games where he's 4 for 8 from three or 5 for 9 or something like that, and I'm like, Clay Thompson would help this team. He really would. I truly do believe that, and I hate that all that stuff did get into his head because that was a big issue and it didn't help that in the playing game he probably had one of his worst games of his career and
Yeah, it's
and,
not
and
pretty.
here's the thing that Clay, great player, and every basketball player is going to play. Every athlete is going to have a chip on their shoulder when they hear somebody doubt them. They're always going to be like, okay, they're always going to have that chip on their shoulder and bet on themselves, which rightfully so. They're the best athletes in the world. But I kind of wish Clay would have looked himself in the mirror and been like, "Hey, dude, maybe if you come out in a press conference and say this is not okay, what I have been doing, the games where he's 1 for 12, and there was too many of those games. I mean, I want to say there was a game last year he went 1 for 15 from the field." Or something like that. I remember the Christmas game last year. It was Denver and Golden State, and Clay, man, I couldn't. I was literally saying to myself, leave him. If somebody drives, kind of, you don't have to get right up on him because he just was missing shot after shot. And maybe, like you said, maybe just the reset was good for him. But I kind of wish he would have just this off season, you know, reset your mind, think about Golden State, and come back. Um,
It would have been nice.
and
Obviously, it's easy to say, well, we hope or we wish, but it is what it is. He's no longer there. I hope he comes back and retires a Warrior.
well,
Obviously,
the frustrating part, last thing I'll say about it is you talk about the fans. Yeah, the fans are going to harp on you, but at the end of the day, it's tough love.
well, I'm sure that's not the only reason he left. The money obviously was part of the issue because we can't pay everybody anymore. Um, with the new CBA and the luxury tax and the way you can't
I
go
know,
into
but
luxury
but
tax.
I know, but I don't know.
But it just felt like that was
I
a
don't
part
want to
of it.
say I don't want to say take a pay cut because it's easier said than done. We just look at it in a different way. I'm sure if we're offered 55, whatever his contract was it 55 million? I'm sure if we're offered 50,
Yeah.
I want to say, wasn't it? It was a multi-year
Three
contract,
year
right?
55, I think. Was it 3 years?
Anyways, it was pretty big. It was pretty big money. I'm sure if we're getting offered that, uh, I don't know what Golden State would have offered. Did they ever come out with what Golden State offered?
Yeah, I think it was barely less than that. But I mean, if you really want to get into money, you're talking about Dallas no state tax. So if you're getting 55 out there,
Yeah,
you're getting
San
close to
Francisco is.
yeah,
It
you
is
get
not fun. It is not fun to live
no.
there.
But
So
if it was about the money. Nobody's saying it is, but it sucks. He's not there anymore, but that's all right because the Warriors are 9-2, and hopefully he'll come back and retire. He'll get his jersey retired. It's not like anybody's hating on
yeah,
Clay. We
no,
anybody.
no.
He's my favorite player
That
ever.
was
I mean,
the best thing is the way it ended. It ended really salty. That
yeah,
you are afraid about the comeback, but Warriors. I mean, tip of the cap. Literally with the little captain hats and everything. The way that he walked into the stadium, the entire staff,
yeah.
they did it right, and that is the way. I mean that's the way you do it. Just phenomenal job. Just love, and you know what? That's what makes sports. I mean that's the best part of sports right there.
Yeah.
There is nothing better than your team having a core. They do something. I mean, there's nothing better. I know there's going to be a Steph Curry statue, but I would love to. I would love for when they come out with the statue to have something right next to each other. It's just one big statue of Draymond, Steph, and Clay.
It'd be sick.
I think that would be because listen, KD. I know KD helped them, but when you think about like with Chicago, Jordan, Rodman, and
Pittman.
Pippen. That's what you think about. Like Golden State, it's not any different. Steph, Clay, Draymond. That's what you think about. So
You're right. You're right. And unfortunately, there are other teams. We spent 40 minutes on our favorite teams. There are other teams in the league. One of
oh
which,
yeah, okay, let's go through them.
yeah, one of which we haven't talked about yet, and it's kind of disgraceful. They are 13-0. That is the Cleveland Cavaliers. It'd be disrespectful for us not to at least mention their names in today's episode. And the reason is because I don't know how they're 13-0. I like Cleveland. They're a good team. I don't understand. I mean, it's a great start. Obviously, it's not going to be sustainable. FanDuel's out here literally robbing people in broad daylight. They put up the odds of like, oh, what if Cleveland goes 82-0, and it's at like plus ten
They are
thousand.
not robbing anybody. They are taking advantage of stupid people. I mean,
Yeah. Well, you could.
what's wrong? What's wrong with a betting company throwing that out? That's their job.
I
That's
mean,
their
you're
job.
right.
People are out there all robbing people. They're only robbing stupid people. And you know what? They deserve to get robbed if you're going to place a bet on that.
You sound like me, and I love it. I'm actually going to flip to
And
your
you know
side
what?
now.
I would love to see. I guarantee you, they made a significant amount of money off of that because you
I'm
know how
sure
many
they
people
did.
probably was like, "Let me just put $1 on it. Why not? Let me just put a penny."
The robbing was the fact that the odds were only there was only like plus 10,000, which if you know anything about odds, the fact that it will never going 82-0
It will
will
never
never
happen. Like,
happen. It should be million. You should be able to put a
yes,
dollar
if
and
you
win 1,000,000. I mean
yeah, if you put a
that should
penny on
be
it.
yeah, not $10,000. So that's part of the
Well,
robbery.
maybe FanDuel's like, hey, we love this Cleveland team. Maybe they should have came out
Yeah,
with a press conference and been like,
yeah. Maybe they're
I
like,
tell you what,
well,
this Cavs team, we've been
the
rigging
odds.
games for them. I mean, they're a great team,
Yeah,
and they've been solid. Yeah, what if, I tell you what, I will stop watching sports if the Cavaliers get to the final game of the year and they're undefeated and they lose. I will stop watching sports entirely.
to the Utah Jazz. That's a
Yeah,
dangerous
yeah,
lead to the
yeah. I
Utah
can't wait to
Jazz.
see Colin Sexton hit a half court shot after five straight fouls were called on Cleveland.
Oh
Um,
man.
but no, yeah, Cleveland's been great. Go back. You were talking about them. Don't know how.
I just think they're a good team. Like we talked about them before the season, and my biggest gripe was if Evan Mobley can be the guy that he was supposed to be coming out of college, this team could go to a different level. He has played better. I still don't think he's at the point where he is the guy, but they've got four solid. I mean, you got Jared Allen, Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, Donovan Mitchell. That's a solid four right there. I don't know that, we talk about playoffs all the time. Playoffs, we'll see. We've seen what they've been the last few years. Darius Garland usually kind of folds in the playoffs. Evan Mobley is usually not strong enough by the time the playoffs come. Jared Allen is usually hurt, and then you got Donovan Mitchell trying to save the day, uh, you know, per usual. So we'll see. They look good now. We'll give them their credit. They look good now. Somebody who does not look good, though, however, the 76ers are 2-9.
Wait a minute. Can I say one thing on the
No,
Cavs? Okay.
no, you may not.
76ers. The
Yeah.
Cavaliers. Cavaliers. Did you think I was serious?
No, yeah, no, you're. I thought you. Yeah, I did think. Yeah, that's on
That's
me.
that. No, I think that's awesome.
Hand up
Go
accountability.
ahead, Ryan. Yes.
That was a hand up accountability. That's on me. I take
Oh,
that
okay.
one.
Yes. Yes.
Full responsibility.
What I did want to say about Cleveland is, for some reason, I'm getting a little flashback of some, if the year is correct, like 2014 Atlanta Hawks.
Oh yeah.
Like I could see where they're rolling. They get first in the East,
Yeah.
and we get to the All-Star game, and they end up getting like four of those guys in there, and then they meet your LeBron, your Boston Celtics, and then that's kind of how I'm kind of viewing this team right now. Like solid all around, but when they go up against like Jason Tatum or Jalen Brown or whoever.
Yeah.
Really, the Boston Celtics are an Atlanta Hawks, but if you times them by 10.
I mean, I think if they played New York, I think New York wins it in 7 games. I mean,
Well, I don't know. I don't know because Garland just won Player of the Week, but like you said, I mean playoffs. I still think he's a younger guy, so I don't want to totally give up on
different
him.
game. I want to see how they play in the cup games because, like I said, the intensity does ramp
Oh
up a little
yeah.
bit. I know you hate it, but the intensity does ramp up a little bit. So if the
Hey,
defense,
I can't wait for next week's podcast. I tell you what, they'll lose one of those cup games. I will be so hard on them. I'll actually take it for real.
yeah.
I'll call them liars. I'd rather be the Pistons than the Cleveland Cavaliers.
Well, which would rather be is the Philadelphia 76ers starting off 2 and
Wait,
9.
I
I
wanted to
know.
talk about the Cavs. I want to talk about the Cavs.
I thought you did.
I'm, not, I'm totally messing with you. Let's move on. 76ers.
We need to do this in person because I cannot pick up on half your shit over this phone. Um, all right,
76ers.
2 and 9 76ers. We talked about the Milwaukee Bucks briefly earlier being 2 and 8. We were scared. 2 and 9 scares me, especially when you've got two guys that can't stay healthy for the entirety of their career, and you're banking on them to take you to the promised land. Tyrese Maxey out there on an island by himself, poor guy. Feel bad for the kid. But what should have been a three-headed monster has turned into Joel Embiid being hurt for most of the year and then pushing reporters and, just a crazy few weeks with a 3-game suspension. The reporter apparently had some family. I don't know the exact extent to it, so I'm not going to guess. But there was definitely family involved in a report or a story that I guess could have been told without that information. Joel took offense to it, shoved him, got 3 games, which I think it's so funny to me that coming off an injury and then you just give him 3 games when he's healthy, as if
Huh.
he would have played those 3 games if he wasn't suspended. So it's just one of those suspensions where like, oh, we'll give him a 3-game suspension because the league asked us to, but it's really just because he's hurt and we'll just say he's healthy. He's just a healthy suspended player. He came back. He didn't look the same, to be honest, last night. Probably still looks hurt. Great player, obviously, but the Sixers are in deep, deep trouble because there's no room for another injury this year. Between Paul George or Joel Embiid, there's no more room for injuries, and for them, that is a very tough scenario, just based off of prior history. So could get ugly soon for the Sixers.
Yeah, the thing that sucks for Philadelphia is, I guess if you wanted to tease the idea of like going into a rebuild, like you get to the trade deadline and you're like, you know what, it's just not gonna work. You can't do it because it's not Joel Embiid's stock.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you really get back for what he's worth or what you would imagine he's worth? If that was an idea, if somebody wanted to take on Joel Embiid, which who is, which is insane because it's Joel Embiid. He's a top five. When he is right, he's right now a top five player in the game,
Yeah.
probably.
Easily.
Easy. So Ryan, I am done with Paul George.
I know you
I'm
hate him.
done.
I know.
I'm done with him. When was the last time Paul George did something significant in the league? Maybe 2021 because he was Kawhi Leonard was out and he was the best player
Yeah.
on that Clippers team. And it seemed like he might have figured something out, and it just I can't get excited about him anymore. And he's had one game. He's had one game, and it
But that's the thing is like he's supposed to be the three, two or three. You know, him and Maxi are.
he's not. He is not the two. He's
I think he's
not
the
anymore.
three.
Not anymore.
But I think he's a good three if everybody is healthy on that team. That's the biggest thing. Nobody's healthy. Nobody's ever healthy. And then when you've got guys like Paul George trying to play 1-on-1 out there, or Tyrese playing 1-on-5, then it becomes impossible to win. Especially because they gave up a lot of their bench to get players like Paul George. So
Yeah.
they don't. I don't know. They don't impress me, and they've got little time to fix it because they don't have room for injuries
Yeah.
for the rest of the season.
There has been two things that have been fun to watch with Philadelphia. Number one, Yabusele.
I'll let you just say the Eagles.
Yes.
Okay.
Three things.
Okay.
Philadelphia Eagles.
Yes.
Yabusele
Of course.
made a name for himself in the Olympics, and Philadelphia, they took the chance on him, and it has worked out.
Yeah.
He has been a tough player off the bench. Love me some Yabusele. Second thing, because of the injuries, it has opened up more playing time for Duke Blue Devil Jared McCain, and
Yeah.
he has ran. I mean, he is now obviously still early on, and it's been a couple of weeks. But I would argue, there has been no real rookie that's just running away with like rookie of the year to start the season.
I
And
mean,
Jared McCain, he's put up the best scoring game, I believe, by a rookie. He had 30.
his 30 and 10 last night.
I mean, he has been awesome.
He's been
So,
good. And the thing is, you're right. No rookie has. I mean, Zach Edey's been consistent, so I guess he's the top guy right
yeah,
now.
yeah. And I would say, I mean, when you think about rookies, Stephon Castle is now starting to get starts. He started the last two or three games for San Antonio and has played pretty decent. So,
Speaking of San Antonio, do want to give out our I don't want to say condolences, but our thoughts and prayers. Greg Popovich has been out for the last, what would you say, week and a half. Turns out Shams put out a report, and I want to make sure I get this right because what I believe was a mild stroke, I think is what they called it, or a lower tier stroke. I don't want to get it wrong, which is why I'm pausing so much.
yeah,
Uh,
no, I know what you mean.
because it became serious, and they told.
It was. I mean, I'm pretty sure it was some kind of stroke that he put out there. But
Yeah. All right. So
yeah,
after
no.
a mild stroke, there was possibility of him calling it quits last year. Really, everybody thought he was going to retire, and then they got Victor Wembanyama with the first pick, and everything kind of changed after that. It kind of rejuvenated him a little bit, but now we're in the spot where obviously health is way more important than basketball. So we hope that he can get back on the court, just because he's one of greatest coaches ever. So
Ever. I mean,
ever. So
probably when you top five. I
easily,
mean, just off the top of your head, I would say Phil Jackson,
yeah. Greg,
probably yeah, Greg Popovich, Pat Riley,
yeah, maybe.
m- maybe Eric Spoelstra.
I
Maybe
thought
that's
that
recent. Maybe that might be just recency
we're
bias.
probably missing some big ones like
We're
way
probably
back
missing
then.
some older, like
Yeah,
some older guys, but
but
definitely of the 21st century, has been the best coach in the NBA
easily.
again.
So obviously we hope and pray that he's going to get back to a full recovery and able to get back on the court. But just a scary scene down there in San Antonio. But um, they did have a game last night, and Victor Wembanyama did drop 50 along with what seemed like every other player in the NBA. Giannis had 59, I think. Wemby had 50 for the first time in his career. We talked about it a lot before the season started. CP3 was going to help Victor out a lot, get him a lot more open looks. I will say Victor's shooting a lot more threes this year. I don't know if that's on purpose or if that is I don't know if that's because Greg Popovich is out and is kind of releasing the reins. This interim head coach is to just kind of let him shoot for a while. But they seem to are comfortable letting him shoot like 8 threes a game, which is mind-boggling to me for a 7-3 guy, even with the new way that the NBA is. Uh, but he showed off last night that he can hit them. I mean, 50 points, playing well. Him and Giannis were the main stars last night. But fun time in the NBA, and obviously the standings have kind of shaping up a little bit better than the last time we talked. We've got, the West. One last thing before we get into picks and get out of here. At what point do we start discussing I don't want to say conference realignment, but a part of the NBA where conferences don't matter anymore for playoff seeding? I'm tired of watching the 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 now East teams be able to make the playoffs when the 11th seed in the West had a better record than the 7th seed. It boggles my mind that we can't just go, who are the best teams in the NBA, and go 1 through 16 if you want to have 8 teams in each, or 1 through whatever, and let them play out. If Boston was the best team in the NBA and you know, I don't know, Dallas Mavericks end up getting the 8 seed in the West, technically, let those two play out. I mean,
Okay, yeah, yeah. You just want to go. Okay, so you want to go away with conferences
you can do it for the regular
entirely
season,
again.
but by the time you get to the playoffs, why not just have the best
Well,
record?
I mean, that's no different than. I mean, your. I think your arguments for every sport. It's no different than NFL. I mean,
Yeah, but
you
the
have some divisions that are weaker than others.
divisions are different though, because in the NFL, division winners automatically get in.
I know, but that's kind of how the NBA is viewed. Is
Which is fair
these are
because, but the NBA has more teams that get in, which means as long as one from each division gets in, there's the one from each division is still going to be a top 18 no matter what. Because the way the NBA schedule works, there's no way you can be a top person in your division and be the ninth seed. It's pretty much impossible. So
listen. Anyway to get any way to get those playing teams out, I'm here for. So if we're gonna have,
we don't even have to for them for the money's sake. I'm tired of seeing teams in the West. We're always fighting for more teams out of the West. Oh, this team would have been Houston last year. Could have beat you know the ninth team in the East in the play-in game if they made it. But unfortunately, they play in the West, and they are 8-4 right now, playing well. My pick to be one of the sleeper teams in the league. They could fall off a fucking cliff next week, and never hear from them again. But right now, I'm looking good. And the problem is the Timberwolves, the Mavericks. That's 11-12 right there, and they are 6-6. When you look at the 11-12 in the East, 4-8, 4-7. I know it's only 2 games, but by the time the actual season plays out, you've got 82 games to work with. That's going to be a 10 game gap
yeah,
between the 11 seed on each side. It doesn't make sense to me that we can't just go to the best record. It's not that hard. No math needs to be involved. Just who has the best record, and then base it off 1 through 16. Let them match up that way, and then you'll really
Yeah,
get the two best teams to play in the finals, which is what everybody wants anyway.
yeah. I mean, especially, I mean, like you mentioned, the Eastern Conference this year struggling. West, I mean, West has some really fun matchups. Like if you did one, if you did, take out the playing games, let's just say all the top seeds win, like the 7 and 8 seed, they win. I mean, right now the 1 and 8 seed would be the Kings and the Thunder. I mean, Thunder should win that series, but
Fun series.
if you have to face the Sacramento Kings in the first round, that is tough. You can go down the list: Grizzlies, Warriors.
Yeah,
Everybody in there, everybody is rooting for that series. You know how much history they've had? They hate each other.
they
Well,
do.
they hated each other a little bit more when Dylan Brooks and Clay
I think
on the
they
team.
still
But
hate each other. I think they still have that the animosity. They've
yeah,
had
yeah.
it
I mean,
since
Shaw
Debo
and
was there.
Steph still have. I mean, yeah, they have
Think about that though. You've named off two great matchups. If you go to the East, you've got Cleveland and Brooklyn as your 1-8 seed.
whopping,
Everybody's going to that game. And then you've got Atlanta versus Boston. I love Atlanta as much as the next guy.
whopping. Why?
But it's just,
They got it. They got the win this last game. Whopping.
I would love to see the ratings difference between the Eastern Conference, the Eastern Conference playoffs versus the West. Like,
Yeah.
what is the drop off when you watch, Cleveland play Brooklyn in
And,
the
yeah.
yeah,
And no offense to who is going to watch the Orlando Magic and Chicago Bulls?
that sounds awful.
Who is going to watch that 3-6
And I love
series?
basketball and I love the Orlando Magic. I do. I love the Orlando Magic. As far as they've got players that I like and that I can, I can't suffer through a Chicago Bulls basketball game for a full 48 minutes. And I love
The
Lonzo Ball. I
sorry,
don't I
yawning just thinking about it.
yeah. Yeah. I mean
Just
even the
brutal.
you got Suns Lakers if that were to happen.
Yeah, all of them. The only East one that's intriguing is Knicks Pacers. Because that
Yeah.
was and I think it would be closer. Pacers kind of had their way with New York last year, but I think that would be closer this
That's
year.
how it all is. I mean, until you get to the Eastern Conference Finals in the East, you know, the 4 or 5 seed is always going to be the biggest matchup for obvious reasons because there's only 6 teams in the East that can actually play basketball, and then you've got the Eastern Conference Finals when you finally get two teams that have really played their hearts out. In the West, man, those first round matchups are almost better
Yeah.
than the Western Conference Finals.
Yeah. Kind of just going all over the place, but in the West, Houston kind of looks good from what you were saying. You were big on Houston coming into the year. They're off to an 8-4 start. I will say though that a lot of it has to do with their bench.
Yeah,
Easton and Thompson off the bench have been playing really well because when you take a look at the field goal percentages as far as the shooting from their starters,
not
it's a
good.
little iffy. And those two guys off the bench really saves them. Like Jalen Green, like that's the thing is a casual fan, they probably look at the standings and they're probably like, oh, who's the Jalen Green's probably having a great year. He really isn't. Like you, it's kind of the same stuff from Jalen Green. And I hate saying that because he was my pick for most improved, and it's still 7 of 20 from the field. With you look, oh, he had 34 points. How many shots did he take? He took 32. It's it's like the stats look good if you close your left eye on the stat sheet.
Yeah,
So, Dylan Brooks, again, he's field goal percentages off. Jabari Smith.
and one
Um,
thing that I thought Reed Shepard would play a lot more than he's playing.
yeah, he is not. He's been playing a little bit, but
But he hasn't really had an impact yet. So if he were to get going and like I think he can actually impact games.
yeah,
You're talking about 3 guys off the bench that I was excited for at the beginning of the year, but I mean Fred Van Fleet, meh. Jalen Green, he's
meh.
good, but he's like it's a lot of volume. Alfred Sengun is the only guy I can really count on that starting squad, and he's got a lot of weight on his shoulders just from you know Jabari Smith not really panning out as a number 3
Yeah.
pick, and then Dylan Brooks. It's a weird starting lineup, and then to have such fun young players come off the bench, it's kind of
Yeah.
intriguing to see
Yeah. It
what's going
really
to
is.
happen at the end of the year.
Also, too, they would if we go on those close matchups, they go to Denver, which would be kind of
That'd be
real
fun.
interest, big test. I do want to get my Denver talk in real quick. I have to each podcast. I texted you this. You know what I'm going to bring up.
You've got 2 minutes. Go.
Nobody wants to hear this.
Yeah.
Nikola Jokic has been the best player in the NBA.
It,
Um,
hold on. It's not even close.
it's
It
it's
is. It is not even close. Like it is by far and away the best player this year. At what point do we get to the point where he's like, oh, he's been the best player for the last 5, 6 years, and if he keeps this up, I mean, he could be the best player for a decade. At what point do you really start to be like, oh shit, you're looking at a. I mean, that is if you're the best player for a decade, that is
oh,
generational.
I've always believed that he is the next coming of Larry Bird. I really have it, and I don't think that is.
Similar games, yeah.
I do not think that is. I do not think that is crazy to say. I really don't. Obviously, he's got to get more rings for that to happen. But
Yeah.
if you take a look at the stats, he's averaging 29.7, so pretty much 30 points a game, 11 assists. He's averaging a triple double.
Mm.
Pretty much 30 points per game, 13 rebounds, 11 assists. He leads the league in rebounds and assists, and he's a top 5 scorer. And here's the sad part is he won't win MVP this year. He won't. Because you
Fatigue.
know what, why I could tell is because I forgot if it was the NBA Twitter account or the ESPN. They came out with their list of MVP frontrunners. Number 1
Shay.
was Anthony Davis. Anthony Davis has been awesome this year. But if you think for 1 second that Anthony Davis has had a better season than Nikola Jokic, you need to be checked into Arkham Asylum. Like I'm being dead serious. I'm being quite honest with you. And you know what? You people were able to get away from Jokic to begin the season because they started 0-2. Look where they're at in the standings right now. They're a game and a half back of the Thunder. So, and they have a win against the Thunder, which he won with I'm pretty sure he posted a near triple double in that game without Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray. You think Anthony Davis could do that against the OKC Thunder? You know what? He's going to retire next year, so I have to get my talk in. I have to get. I have to. We don't know when he's going.
He does hate basketball. It's
No, no, no.
impressive.
Listen, and I've always hated that argument because I just know more about. He came out with a quote. This was probably 3 or 4 years ago. It was definitely before he won the championship. He said, and I actually have the gold standard championship. Give me 2 seconds. I'll show it.
This will be good.
I have the gold standard, New York Times bestseller. I'll read it to you like a children's book, and we just have. I'll do the little lick thing that
Yeah.
the teachers do. See,
Good.
they got all this stuff. Look at that. I turn right to Nikola Jokic, but I'm pretty sure there is a quote in here, and I know there's a quote out there if it's not in the book. He said he wants to be what Tim Duncan was for the Spurs for the Nuggets. How long did Tim Duncan play?
A lot.
I mean, he played till he was 40 years old.
Yeah,
So,
too long.
listen, I think people say that because Jokic doesn't like to do all the media stuff. He doesn't even have social media. So people are just like, oh, he hates his job. It's like, well, no, he doesn't like the things that people are supposed to like. That's what it comes down to. So,
He enjoys life, but here the actual point is he has been by far and away the best player. If I don't even think Anthony Davis is the most valuable player on his own team, let alone in the entire league. I think people have forgotten what the standard is for MVP. It's not. I don't view it as, oh, what player has the best season on the best team that year. My definition is, if you take that player off that team, how shit do they become? Because if you watch the Denver Nuggets without Nikola Jokic, you would think that they are a bottom feeder team along with the Utah Jazz. That's how
Yeah, I
bad.
mean that's the reason he won his first MVP.
Yeah,
The second best player, he was without. He was playing without
Jamal.
MPJ and Jamal Murray because MPJ went out early that year. So, and they still, one of the best playoff series that I've ever seen him was they played the Portland Trailblazers first round. And they were playing with like Aaron Gordon, Facu Campazzo, and Monte Morris was the guards on that team. And I mean, they romped a Damian Lillard, CJ McCollum, Nurkic Trailblazers team, beat them in 6 games. So, but last thing I'll say, I just want to read these game logs because they are amazing. First game of the year, 16, 12, and 13. Second game of the year, he doesn't drop a triple-double, 41 points, though. Second game. Third game of the year, doesn't have a triple-double, but he drops 40 points. So that's back-to-back 40-point games. Next game against the Brooklyn Nets, 29, 18, and 16. Nobody has had a better game than that. No, nobody's had a better game than that. Can we agree?
I'd
Okay,
have
let's.
to.
I'm saying I'm passionate. I'm passionate about this stuff.
You're good.
Nobody's had a better game than that. Guess what he dropped against Dallas on Sunday? 37, 18, and 15. The reason why I'm passionate about it is because I know we're going to get to the end of the season and people are going to call him frauds, but they're going to be like, well, he only has one championship. I don't know.
Listen. I agree with everything you're saying because
I know you do. Because you know what?
and I usually don't.
Get tip the cap. Tip the cap because you let me talk. You let me talk and go through it. I just need
Well,
it.
and it needed to be it needed to
I
be
need
done
it. I need it. That's why we need to
for
save
you
two
and the fans.
minutes.
I mean, everybody knows that deep down that Nikola Jokic is the best player. Nobody's really paying attention to it right now. But I think everybody's cut in stone so set on everybody being like, oh, well, this is Shea's year to win the MVP. Shea's been playing great, but
He has not been.
nowhere near.
No. Well, it frustrates me too because every single year we have to hear about this league is struggling because once LeBron leaves,
Yeah.
I'm like, hello. I, I don't think it's crazy to say we got him. We got him. Just
You
because he isn't American and flashy and dunking from the free throw line, like
well, everybody assumes that because you don't have a personality, you're not you're not Anthony Edwards, where everything is national headlines. That you can't be the face of the league, and that's probably why most people wouldn't have ever thought of Tim Duncan as the face of a league, even if LeBron wasn't there. So it's kind of in that same realm. But I don't care if I'm the face of the league if I'm walking out of there with a few championships and 4 MVPs at
yeah.
the end of the day.
No,
So
I'm just saying like it's gonna be tough because Boston is unbelievable. But if Denver went on a run and Jokic beat that Boston team in the finals, I mean you're gonna have to start seriously having conversations about top 10 players in the league. I mean, like,
yeah,
he's starting to teeter on the Mount Rushmore. Maybe not the Mount Rushmore, but maybe not the Mount Rushmore. That's me. That's my fan coming out. But seriously, like one of the best player, top 5 player of 21st century.
well, you're gonna be if the Warriors win a fifth championship with Steph Curry on a year where they lose Clay and everything
Oh
seems to
man,
be
if
going
that
right.
happened, yeah, Mount Rushmore
You,
talks.
we're talking uncomfortable conversations.
Uncomfortable. Like,
Uncomfortable. Like he's gonna be, the fan in me says, top three, and he's probably number three, but he's, kind of
well,
pushing.
what is Mount Rushmore right now?
Oh,
MJ, LeBron. After that, I know. Listen, I know people put Kobe,
I'm not that guy though. I listen. I know. Rest in peace.
Kareem.
I loved watching him from afar. I was never a huge Kobe fan, and that I'm not saying that he's not a Mount Rushmore guy um, because I didn't like the way that he played or that I hated him when he was winning championships. That's not the case. The case is he's not a top three player. I get that every basketball guy that plays against him goes, "Oh, he was different. He was like Mike." Blah blah blah. What if we're basing it off of what NBA players say? Then why the hell are we talking about it? Let them
Yeah,
say what it is. But
yeah.
if we're talking about it because that's what we know, we watch stats, we watch the games. He's not top four.
You
Not
know
really.
what? You know what my Mount Rushmore might be is
I'd have to think. I'd have to go through.
I think off the top of my head, this is what I would do, and I'll explain why. LeBron, MJ,
Mhm.
obviously, and then I would go Magic Johnson and Larry Bird. Here's the reason why. When you think of the '80s, what do you think of?
Yeah,
Bird and Magic. When you think of the '90s, you got MJ.
Jordan.
When
Yeah,
you think of the 21st century, you think of LeBron James. Those are, I would say, the four most impactful players in NBA history. And if Steph gets that fifth one, if you wanted to slide him in over Larry Bird or Magic Johnson, it would probably be more on the side of Larry Bird. I would have no problem. As far as being he is probably the second most generational athlete behind LeBron James. Everybody, the 2010s was LeBron and Steph. That was some of the best basketball ever. LeBron and Steph Curry.
yeah. And I mean, and Steph got one in the 2020s. So like, and he
Yeah,
could have
Andy. Yeah,
has a chance to go for two. So I mean, if he gets,
and I always, and I don't know about you because you're a fan. That was his best finals ever. It
easily,
wasn't any of the ones. Once KD left, I don't think anybody seriously thought the Warriors would be back.
yeah,
And that run, and the best game of his career, I don't care. The 50-point game, game four in Boston. It was 2-1. I thought it was over. I thought it was over. I was like, okay, Warriors, nice run. The Celtics team, they're two. And then I didn't even watch the game. I didn't get a chance to. Was just doing baseball stuff. Look on my phone, and they have the graphic 50 behind Steph Curry, him yelling at the crowd, and I was like, that's when uh, uh, the whole thing swung, and I truly believe like that was when he solidified himself, where everybody was like, okay, Steph Curry was great. Now we're talking about an all timer,
yeah.
right there. You know, I mean, you know,
Yeah, I mean, your Mount Rushmore is way different than mine. You're going off of
impact, I guess.
impact. Magic and Bird saved the '80s, saved NBA in the '80s. Jordan has the '90s. LeBron has 2000s. Really, not just 2010s. He is fucking
Yeah, like
2003 to
literally
2024.
2000s, tens, and
He's got
he even
two
he has a
decades.
championship in the 20s, 2020.
Yeah.
So
But the I won't get into mine because I'm gonna have to think about it. But we'll get into some picks here. I will say though, if he wins one, uncomfortable conversations are coming about him being
uncomfortable. It'll be
yeah,
tough. It'll be
not for
tough,
me. It'll be comfortable for me,
but
but
man, if they get a 3 seed, oh man, man, we thought the last time the Warriors and the Lakers played in the playoffs was going to be the last time.
mm,
We might have another really nice Lakers Warriors series.
all right. I
All
guess
right,
we
what are
can
we
get
doing?
in.
NBA or NFL? NFL.
We're gonna do our our normal locks and upsets of the week, and I'll read you off the stats. Haven't gone through all of them. I'll admit that. Don't know that I will. We might just pick it up from here from now on. But as of right now, Matthew, you are 2-2 on the upsets. Solid. I'd say solid for upsets for teams that are not supposed to win. You're going 50% so far. And on the locks, you're going 3-1. You can't be mad at that. NBA, we are 0-2 combined. Or I'm sorry, together. We are both 0-2. Not a great look for two guys that are doing an NBA podcast, but what can you do? Um, I am 4-0 on the NFL locks and 2-2 on the upsets as well. Let's get into your lock and upset of the week for the NFL season. For the NFL, what week is this?
This is week 11. Holy cow.
Gosh, this thing flies by every
Hey,
year.
NFL, man. Yeah.
Fly.
Well, I've always said just life talk. The holiday season, October, November, and December,
It's a blur.
it's a blur. The holiday season's busiest time of the year. Like Thanksgiving's in 2 weeks.
And it is.
I mean, it's already the middle of November, and then once Thanksgiving comes, or it'll be. I swear to you, it'll be Christmas
Yeah.
in the blink of an eye. So, which sucks because you really feel it when you get older. Like these holiday seasons, when I'm 11, 12 years old, I always felt like it was the month of December was always a year. It felt like. So it's just us getting older. Anyways, off the depressing stuff.
Yeah.
So what do you want first, my lock or my upset?
Whichever you prefer.
Okay, I'll go with my lock. It is the Houston Texans over the Dallas Cowboys on Monday Night Football.
Yeah.
CJ Stroud he's been struggling over the last 2 games. I don't know how you lose with Jared Goff throwing 5 interceptions. And you are supposed to be one of the great quarterbacks in the league. So, CJ Stroud is kind of scaring some people. I don't think everybody is like when you think of the tiers in the AFC, I think which this is most of the time, Chiefs, Bills, Ravens. And Texans, they made a strong push last year by getting into that final four. They lost, but everybody was like, yeah, no, rookie CJ Stroud. And they were waiting for that jump. CJ Stroud had a good start to the year, but I don't think we've seen that jump where I'm confident. I think this is a big week for him against a Cowboys team that is just, oh my gosh. I mean, team chemistry and
Awful.
everything. I mean, this is just a disaster. So it's
I
in
will say
Dallas.
one thing on the CJ Stroud thing. Nico Collins has been out like the last 4 weeks. So him being back because they don't right now they have Tank Dell and no Stephon Diggs, no Nico Collins. So wide receiver a little thin, but maybe Nico. I think Nico might be projected to come back on Monday night. So
Yeah.
you might see
Um,
CJ Stroud go back into
yeah.
full form
Also, too, I don't know why the Cowboys aren't playing Trey Lance. And here's the reason why.
because he's not good at football.
Well, why not? He's a younger dude. To be honest with you, I think it would be fun, a whole lot more fun for the fan base because Dak, even though Dak is the dude, Trey Lance comes out there and starts to do some things.
Yeah.
At least you might have some off-season talk, even though it won't really mean that much. So I think to make it fun for the season, throw Trey Lance out there. We really haven't gotten this. This is a dude who was a top 10 pick by the
Top
Niners. Was
top
supposed to be a
three.
franchise QB. We have not gotten to see him go through kind of a full season. I would really like to see him finally, like have like consecutive games where he
You just
plays.
you just want to see him so your pick can get a fair shirt lock. That's
No,
what
no,
you
I
want to see.
really, Cooper
I'm
Rush.
kid.
I'm
I'm
confident
kidding.
Cooper Rush. I'm confident Cooper Rush. He ain't gonna do squat diddly,
Squat
respectfully,
double.
squat
Yeah.
diddly, respectfully. So, but that is my lock. Is Texans? They bounced back. Been struggling the last couple of weeks. Looked terrible against the New York Jets.
Yeah.
So Texans bounce back. I'm teetering on 2 upsets. I kind of want to stay away from one
I know which
be-
one you want.
because it's my favorite team.
Yeah.
I'm not. I won't do that one just for the sake of it being my team. Even though it's in Pittsburgh and Lamar Jackson has not played good against the Steelers, that is just a fact. And Steelers are balling right now. So, but I will go with a shocker. And I will say that the Chicago Bears beat the Green Bay Packers this week. I do not believe that the Chicago Bears are just a god awful football team. They were 4-2. I do not understand the and you know what? I'm kind of disappointed in DJ Moore. He has been every time I look, there's some story about him giving up on the play, talking about a coach, and I'm like, listen, dude, what did you expect coming into the season playing for a rookie QB who's trying to figure out some stuff? Like, let the coach and I don't understand it because y'all were 4-2 off of a smoke show win against the Jaguars. You put up 35 points. And the Jaguars are bad, but it's not like they're a 2021 Detroit Lions. Like they're still going to compete,
Yeah.
even though they're a bad football team. So, and here's the thing, too. This is a must-win week for the Chicago Bears. So you've had 3 straight losses, rivalry game at home. The place is going to be rocking. Caleb Williams has been off and on, but he's been more off. So I think he's due for a nice game. I wouldn't be surprised if the Bears go in there. Jordan Love throws a couple of picks, and we got a pretty shocking upset at the 12
I
o'clock
like that.
window.
I like that pick for 2 reasons and 2 reasons only. Home dog, love a home underdog, and just fired the offensive coordinator as of like 3 days ago. So you got a new rejuvenated offense.
Yeah,
Probably going to throw some new stuff out there. I do love that pick. I might throw quite a bit of money on that if I'm going to be honest, because I won a lot during the Kentucky game. So we'll be quite all right. I will
yeah.
say,
And you know what they say? When you make money, a lot of money off of betting, don't invest. Don't
spend it.
don't invest. Just spend it more.
Invest it in your next bet because that's the.
That's so bad.
Here's what I tell everybody that has quit betting or stopped gambling. The next one was gonna hit. You just gotta get back on the horse. You can't fall out unless you get stomped into the ground by the horse. You gotta get back on it. I mean, you
Yeah, I've
can't.
been telling myself that pretty much every Sunday, and
Yeah.
it don't work. So,
Are you getting stomped? Yes. Um,
all right, lock for you.
I'm looking at the odds here because a lock for me I think is pretty easy. It's going to be Miami Dolphins against the Raiders, and the reason I say that is because Miami, if they want to have a shot to even become close to the playoffs, in case any team slips up in the AFC, you got to win this game. You got to
Have to.
start off. Um, Tua's second game back, third game,
Third game
third game
back.
back. They've got to get a win before this whole thing kind of starts to blow up. I think if Miami has a losing record this season that is pretty substantial, you could hear a lot of rumors about maybe
Really,
some.
this season after the injuries and everything.
I think so because how many are we 1 injury away before we're like he might retire from football? And I don't know if you watch this football team without Tua, they're not a good football team, which makes me believe that they're not a good football team because Tua is not a good enough quarterback to be able to have that kind of impact. Um, he's good. He definitely makes them win games, but I don't think they're a good football team.
Interesting. Well, what's funny, and sorry to bring the Steelers into this, but it was Deshaun Elliott. He was on a podcast. I believe he was talking about his former team because he came from the Dolphins, correct?
I
But
believe so.
well, he was talking about the Ravens matchup coming up, and he just was talking about how he was looking forward to it, and he was like, "Well, last year it was a lot different when we played them because I play, talking about his team said they were soft. So, you know, I hate when that happens, but it's interesting that you say that, and maybe he was onto something. Maybe the Dolphins aren't a good football team without two
I'm in between two
on the upsets.
on the upset meter. Um, but
Which ones are we thinking?
I love Pittsburgh. I love Pittsburgh. And it's going to be an ugly game, and I'm not sure that I can put money on an ugly game.
It'll be an ugly game. It's just when Pittsburgh are underdogs at home, it's almost like an automatic.
Yeah, here's the thing though. Mama always used to say, "Never put money on an ugly game," and I won't. I won't do it. I live by whatever she says, and she told me never put money on an ugly game. This will be an ugly game. It'll be maybe a few turnovers, a lot of running the ball, not a lot of flashy plays. Just hard nosed football, and that is ugly. I love it. I love
I
watching
mean,
those games.
it's Steelers Ravens. That
But yeah, I
Steelers
love watching
Ravens.
those games. But for money purposes, I will not put money. Thank you, Mama. And I'm going to go with the Seahawks over the 49ers. I know the 49ers need wins bad, but I don't know if you've ever seen the NFC West play football. Everything is a shit show over there. Whoever you think is going to win in the NFC West matchup, they don't. This is one of those times. So I'm going to go Seattle over San Francisco. Bold pick. Bold pick. Might throw myself on.
That is a bold pick. And but I tell you what, the more desperate team is Seattle, because
And
if
they
the
are.
Niners lose, the Niners are in a bad spot, but they're still the Niners. Um,
And
but
they're at home. Niners are
but
at home.
if Seattle drops to 4-6 after starting the year 3-0,
Hmm.
talk about a gut punch. They're done. I think they are officially done if they lose this game.
This game will either be a Seattle close win or San Francisco will win by 45 points, and I'll look like a fucking idiot the
Yeah.
next time I record. But I'm
Also,
going to
too,
take.
not a good look for the Brock Purdy haters last week. Brock Purdy was outstanding. I like Brock Purdy. I haven't understood the hate with him. I get he has a lot of talent around him, but who does? I mean, you need talent. I mean, he's playing good
This
with the
year he
talent.
doesn't.
Doesn't that
This
matter?
this year he
So
doesn't because Debo is not the same, and Brandon Ayuk's out for the year, and he's been without Christian McCaffrey for 11 weeks. So this year has been different. So
yeah, but
it,
that was a game. I think he only had like 5 incompletions, threw for 300 yards. Like I I've always hated the Brock Purdy hate. I mean, if you're a quarterback, you get to the Super Bowl, you're a stud. You're a stud. I don't care. Yeah, I mean, you could say that Jimmy Garoppolo.
that's what I thought.
I know what you're
You.
thinking, but I refuse to think Jimmy Garoppolo was a bad quarterback. I
Not saying
really
he was
do.
bad, but I'm not going to go out on a limb and say he was a stud either. He was
I'll say he was a
mediocre.
stud.
He was
I thought
mediocre at best and got carried by his team and his defense, which is
more
fine.
so, more so. But
And people used to say the same thing about Jared Goff. I think Jared Goff has turned into a stud. Jared Goff, when he first got to Detroit, was not a stud. He was, Sean McVay's puppet at some point. Um, but you can turn yourself into a stud. Jimmy G did not. Jared
well,
Goff did.
the Lions. I feel like are kind of like I don't think they necessarily want Jared Goff to just air it out. Like their running game, nobody can stop them.
Yeah.
Um, but it did show you what can go wrong for Detroit is when they're not running the ball, like against Houston, and Jared Goff turns into old Jared Goff. So it's not like you. That's the only thing with Detroit. Other than that, they're perfect.
Yeah.
But that is literally like if they're not running the ball, do you trust Jared Goff enough to go get you one? Because he's been great, but it's not like it's been like 400-yard games and
No, but
it's him like, not turning the ball over, nice 200-yard games. But I mean, he got exposed Sunday night. He's been great. I've been seeing
he's been
MVP
great.
stuff for him, to be honest
He's
with
been
you.
great. He's been great, and our picks have been great, and we're hoping to keep that up this year. This might be down week. I mean, I could get screwed over two times by
Yep.
Las Vegas and San Francisco, but we shall see, and we will figure this out next week. We might be back on regular recording a Monday. Hell, we might even do
I mean, yeah, why not?
might do a Sunday in person episode. Who knows? We will.
Yeah. We might trying to get off to watch some football. Yeah, that would be a lot of fun. Thumbs up for that. Hey, camera
For
news.
that. But we will definitely catch you all the next time that we're here. So be on the lookout.